Welcome to the Premier League preview brought to you by sportsbet.io. Do like, subscribe, share and comment to get your latest previews for the Premier League. Football across Europe with our Euro pods, the Champions League, the NFL and the NBA podcast. We've been away for a couple of weeks because of international football, but we are back to cover the big games for Matchday 12 and we're going straight into the big one with two teams coming into this one out of sorts. Manchester City have lost their last 4 games straight and Spurs, well, let's be frank, they are just simply being Spurs at the moment. It is a late kick-off on Saturday. Man City have lost their last 4 games in all competitions. So the last time they'd lost 5 in all competitions straight was back in 2006. And Spurs have only won 3 of the last 15 away games in the Premier League. I am going to the former Spurs goalkeeper for this one first, Paul Robinson. The prices on this one, Man City 1.52, Spurs are 5.9, 4.6 for the tie. I will warn you, I've got a great question coming your way, guys, about this one shortly. But initial thoughts for Man City Spurs?
You're not going to reference the fact that I've come to see you this morning. I'm sat next to you. Or is that just going to be missed out, is it?
Paul's here, by the way, to say hello. Paul, how are you?
I'm all right, thank you. Yeah, it's nice of you to say so. That I'm having internet problems at home. I'd just love to come and see you, see.
I think
it's better when we all get together.
I think, we can struggle on Neil Mellor's questions together in person, I think is what's going to happen over the course of the week. We can confer, yeah. But your thoughts on Man City Spurs? This one, big one.
I think there's going to be some interesting news imminently about Pep Guardiola, isn't there, with his contract situation. Yeah. And I think it's perfectly timed from Manchester City. Funny enough, he signed his contract extension this time last year, only 2 days ago, in the same week. 4 losses in a row away from home, back at the Etihad for Manchester City. Home comforts you would expect maybe. Against the Spurs side, 2 losses in a row as well. After, listen, they beat Villa, they beat Man City, and you're thinking, okay, Spurs might have turned the corner. They're where everybody expects them to be going that direction. And then they go and lose at home to Ipswich, which blew everyone's ACRA apart last week. I don't care what you say, I doubt anyone apart from an Ipswich fan backed Ipswich to win at Tottenham last week. So as for Spurs, what you're going to get? I was listening to the odds this morning. I can't believe how strong favourites City are in this. They're really strong favourites in this Manchester City. And the draw's a good price. I like the draw in this.
Oh, you do fancy the draw? I thought you'd still be all over Man City because I'll come to you, Neil, on this one. I know that we're talking about Man City's, run of bad form all the way from home. We have to remind that. And I also think in a way that actually Pep is enjoying this run of bad form because it gives him a challenge to get over. And I think that is lighting Pep's fire at the moment. It is 2 years since Man City lost at home, 35 games ago. Can you tell me who were the last team to win in the Premier League at Man City? Can anyone tell me?
Brentford.
Yep, Brentford.
Yeah. Brentford, yeah. Who scored both goals for Brentford that day?
Ivan Toney.
Yeah, you're both on fire. Yeah. So even though Man City are struggling,
you said you're having good questions today.
No, I've got a better question than that. That was just an on-the-spot question. Even though Man City is struggling at the moment, they're struggling away from home. Their home form in the Premier League is just simply outstanding. So even though you're going for the draw, are you firmly on Man City on this one, Neil?
Struggling. They've lost 4 games in different competitions. It's not a case of they're out of the title race or out of the Champions League. They've still got everything to play for this season. I'm surprised at the time of this Pep announcement, and official yet. They've got Liverpool next week. Do it ahead of that game. That'll give you a boost, not ahead of Spurs, because you'll beat Spurs. Spurs are so inconsistent. Spurs have played 5 away games and won 1, and they want to be in the Champions League. It's not good enough. It's not good enough at all. They have to improve in that. People will say they've done all right against City. Fair enough, but City at home, you just wouldn't back against City at home. I think that's what you would say. They've drawn 1 of the 5 games. They've won 4 of the other ones. City at home, I see this one as a comfortable home victory. What I would say about City and where they need to improve, De Bruyne is back fit, which is a massive boost for them. Other players need to contribute rather than Haaland scoring goals. Look at the goal scorers this season for Manchester City. I'm going to list a few names here for you. And you've got to tell me, out of all these players, how many Premier League goals have they got between them this season? Foden, Bernardo Silva, Savinho, Grealish, Gundogan. 1, 2, 3, 5 players have named. How many goals between them this season? In the Premier League only. Foden, Bernardo Silva, Savinho, Grealish, Gundogan. How many Premier League games?
We know
goals?
Bernardo Silva hasn't got any because he backs him every week and he doesn't score. So
I don't think Foden scored in the Premier League so far this season either, because I have him in my fantasy Premier League side, and I bet you that the week I drop him is when he gets a hat-trick.
Haaland's got 12.
So I would imagine that we're probably looking at 3 goals across those 5 players, is what my guess would be.
Robbo, you got a number?
No.
Correct. They haven't scored a Premier League goal between them. Foden got 19 last season. Foden got 19. Bernardo Silva got 6. By the way, Bernardo Silva's going to score this weekend. He hasn't scored at home since last November. He hasn't scored at home. He's due a goal. He is due a goal. He hasn't scored in the Premier League at all since January. I'm all over Bernardo Silva to score this weekend.
So, from what you've told me so far, it does firmly feel like you're going for the tie in this one, Robbo. And Mels, you've gone for Man City win. Here's my question, though. How many goals have Spurs scored in their last 3 Premier League games at Manchester City? There's the question. How many goals have Spurs scored in their last 3 Premier League games at Manchester City? I'll come to you first, Neil.
6.
7.
8 is the answer. 8.
7 or 8.
8. They've got actually a good goal scoring record. And of course, Spurs did beat Man City in the League Cup, which is the most Spursy thing ever, isn't it? They lose away at then winless Crystal Palace, beat Man City and Aston Villa, and then lose at home to then winless Ipswich. And that is Spurs.
Teams to score this one.
Well, you would have thought so, yeah, because the last 3 Premier League games between these two sides, 3-3, 4-2 win for Man City and a 3-2 win for Spurs last time out. So we've had plenty of goals. Kulusevski, by the way, he scored in every single one of the last 3 games for Spurs at Manchester City. So if you fancy anytime goal scorer if he plays, Kulusevski could be the man. So I'll go to your score prediction in this one, Paul. For Man City Spurs, you've kind of led us to think you're going for the tie in this one.
Back against Spurs, though. Like Mel's never backs against Leeds. Yeah. Can't back against my old team, and they're capable of getting a result, but they're also capable of getting thumped. I'm worried about them with Van der Ven injured. Dragger's in playing that high line with Haaland running in behind him. He could have an absolute field day. City are about to thump somebody. I just hope it's not Spurs. Listen, the sensible money goes on City, but my head stays with Spurs. 2 apiece. Yeah, 2-2. There are plenty of rumours during the international football that, of course, Ange Postecoglou was falling out with some of his players with his straight talking, to be honest with you, though. A couple of them were rumoured to be defenders and a goalkeeper, but I suppose if I was a Spurs manager and I'd lost at home to Ipswich, I also would be probably falling out with my defenders on that one as well. So 2-2 for Paul. Neil, you're going for what? What's your scoreline for Man City against Spurs?
Yeah, just for a little question in for you. It's not going to be 0-0. Spurs have had 1 clean sheet in 9 in the Premier League. Man City have had 1 clean sheet in 10. So that's been a problem for both teams this season. It's not going to be 0-0. The last 0-0 at Man City at home to Spurs was 2003. City had Anelka and one chop up front. Spurs had Keenan Canute. Who were the goalkeepers that day? City versus Spurs. 2003. One was English. One was American.
2004. So one will be Joe Hart and Casey Keller.
Oof, 1 out of 2.
Casey
Gav.
Keller.
Well, I was
definitely right.
Oh, well, I was going to go Joe Hart.
Yeah, that's why I said Joe Hart and Casey Keller.
So he's got 1 out of 2. So don't go Joe Hart.
For Man City. Nicky Weaver.
How many guesses do you want, Robbo? I mean, Gav, do you want to go or not?
No, I'm letting Robbo take the lead on this one because he's coming up with far better answers than I am, even if they're wrong. Nicky Weaver's a good guess. Is it right?
Both wrong. He was a goalkeeper with a ponytail.
Oh,
David Seaman.
David Seaman was in goal for Man City, yeah. Last time it was 0-0 at home. So it's not going to be 0-0. I'm all over a City win. I give Spurs a goal because City struggle for clean sheets. City to win, 3-1, Bernardo Silva to score.
just cut the last bit out there.
By the way, who was the Spurs keeper that day? That's the one that you got right with Casey Keller?
Casey Keller.
Just confirming that. So that's Man City against Spurs. We've got Arsenal against Forest. That's the next game we're focusing on the Premier League preview, brought to you by sportsbet.io. The pricing in this one, Arsenal are 1.37, firm favourites. Nottingham Forest are 9.6, 4.8 for the tie. After 11 games, it is only goal difference separating these teams in the league. Arsenal are 4th, Forest are 5th. Both have 19 points. Arsenal goal difference +6, +5 for Forest. They are having one hell of a season for Forest, and they're coming into this one off the back of a bit of a bump with a home defeat to Newcastle. I'm going to come to you first, Neil, for your thoughts on Arsenal against Forest.
There'll be at least 25 points between these teams at the end of the season. Yeah, Arsenal
25 goals in this game.
25 nil. I'll get the price.
I mean, I think the international break came at a good time for Arsenal just to recharge the batteries a little bit. Odegaard's such an important player for them. I think him back fit now, I think you'll see an upturn in form for Arsenal. What surprised me when I was looking at this game was they haven't won in 4, so disappointing run before that break, 2 defeats, 2 draws. They haven't had a clean sheet in 7. I felt as though Arsenal's strength last season was being able to stop teams. Forest have a better defensive record than Arsenal, and I think you have to give Forest credit for that. I don't think they'll be able to keep a clean sheet going to Arsenal, but they've done well away from home this season. They've been to Chelsea, they've been to Liverpool, they've been to Brighton, and they're still unbeaten this season, Forest. So that's where you have to give them credit. I called it against Newcastle last game. I felt as though I think Forest will have a little bit of a dip. I think they're over-reliant on Wood. Who else is scoring the goals? He's on 8. The next to him is 2. So, I'm all over Arsenal to get back to winning ways with a victory. Not a massive win, but enough to be a comfortable victory. So I'm on Havertz to score as well, by the way. I think Odegaard back will be absolutely massive for him. He scored in 4 of his 5 league games at home this season. And I think with Odegaard back, he'll get going. Arsenal will win. And just while I'm still talking, your quiz question is this. Last time Forest got a draw at Arsenal at Highbury was 1995. The late Kevin Campbell, God rest his soul, scored for Forest. But who scored for Arsenal that day? 1995, the last time Forest got a point away from home at Arsenal. Who got the Arsenal goal? Kev Campbell scored for Forest.
My first guess for Forest as well. But that's not the question, is it?
He could have been
right.
Good guess. Englishman, it's not him. Gav, this is a chance. An Englishman scored a very famous goal for England
David
in the
Platt.
World Cup. Platty, there we go. Gav is back in it. Platt scored that's how long ago it was that Forest.
It's funny actually because I feel that even though again the same argument with Arsenal is the same for Man City. They're in a poor run of form. I think it's the worst run of form for Arsenal for 4 years. I think it's been 2020 since they went on such a long run without winning a game in the Premier League. But Arsenal's home form is still rock solid. But
that's only away from home.
Yeah,
6 wins out of 8 at home.
I know their home form is just like Man City. Yeah, exactly. Man City's home form is absolutely rock solid. So is Arsenal's. But this is Forest, and we've fallen into the Forest trap before where they've gone away to Anfield and won. They're the only real blot on Arne Slot's record as Liverpool manager is a home defeat to Forest. And Forest's away form is absolutely exquisite, up there with the best in the Premier League. 9.6 for Forest. Are we falling into another Forest trap here where they've been to some tough places and got results where we don't expect them to? Are we falling into potentially the same trap here, Paul, for just discounting Forest at 9.6?
I think we're all just sat there waiting for Forest bubble to burst, aren't we? Which is what we do most weeks because they've had such a good start. And you look where they are. Listen, they're 5th, joint on points with Arsenal. Their record's the same as Arsenal's. So we're saying that Arsenal had a blip, but we're saying how well Forest have done. But we all expect Forest at some point to dip, like Mel said there. They'll finish 25 points behind Arsenal, he reckons. But they've scored first in the last 5 games, so that's not a bad bet for Forest away from home. So get back them to score first. You fancy an Arsenal win, maybe back Forest to score first. They've won 3 of the last 5, losing 1. They've got nothing to lose for Forest. I hate the phrase, it's a free hit. But the sensible money goes on Arsenal, but I wouldn't be surprised if I'm driving to Manchester on Saturday night and this comes in that it's a 1-1 draw or Forest have nicked something there. A little bit of me says draw, but the sensible money goes on Arsenal at home.
I agree with that. And the thing with Forest is they can play with freedom because they're absolutely not looking over their shoulder going, do you know what, we need points quickly or to pull away from the bottom 3. That's the furthest from their mind because they're literally going, do you know what, we'll be fine this season already because we've started the season well. Therefore, we can play pressure-free football because if we lose, we're still at the top, towards the top of the table. So it's pressure-free football. So I kind of think that Forest may get something from this one. Let's go for the score predictions. Neil, you first. I think you're firmly in the Arsenal camp, but what's your score prediction for Arsenal Forest?
Yeah, I think they'll have to work hard, but it'll be a comfortable home win. 2-0 Arsenal for me.
2-0 for Arsenal. Arsenal won both games 2-1 last season, so Forest did score in both games home and away against Arsenal last season. Paul, score prediction, Arsenal Forest?
What does that say?
It says 2-0.
Yeah, but I'm going to change it for purely entertainment value. Because I'm not on a very good run at the moment and I need to get some alternate scores. So I'm going to go for the most popular score in Premier League history, 2-1.
2-1. Exactly as it was last season. Yeah,
but not a draw like you said it might be. Not a draw like you said it might be. All right.
No, I said I wouldn't be surprised if it was a draw.
Yeah, that's fair. I heard you, yes, we will get on to how you fared on the match predictions for 11, where someone took a bit of a kicking from the other. We'll get to that in part 2. So that's Arsenal against Forest, 3 p.m. on Saturday, and then we go to 2 p.m. on Sunday for Southampton against Liverpool. Southampton are 10. They're the biggest price this weekend, slightly bigger than the Forest price. Arsenal prices correct at the time of recording. Southampton 5.8 for the tie at Southampton, 1.29 for Liverpool. Arne Slot has won 15 of his 17 games in charge of Liverpool. It's a win percentage of over 88%. And Southampton have won their last 2 games at home to Everton in the Premier League and to Stoke in the League Cup. I know you've got obviously close connections to Liverpool, Neil, but I'm coming to you first, Paul, on this one. Southampton against Liverpool. No upset here, is there?
No, I was at the Wolves-Southampton game last week. They just can't score, Southampton. I mean, for all the possession they had against Wolves in the first half, they actually played some decent football, but they're just so blunt up front. He's looking for the formula, Russell Martin. He had to change his system before the game. He lost a player before the game, so he brought in Aribo, I think it was before the game. So he made one change. Before 70 minutes were up, he'd made 5 or 6 substitutions in the game, changed his formation 2 or 3 times. But at half-time, you wouldn't have been surprised against Wolves if they'd gone in 1 or 2 up. They're dominating games, but they just cannot score. I mean, I've got a stat in here somewhere for me, for working for the weekend. They've hit 34 shots on target from 113 shots. 34 from 113. 30% of their shots go on target. That shows why they haven't scored goals. Lowest scorers in the Premier League, they've scored 7 goals. You're going to have to score at least 1 or more than 1 to beat Liverpool. You're going to have at least 2 or 3 the way that Liverpool play. I just can't see Southampton getting the next result the way that they played at Wolves. They had all the possession, but the problem is they just cannot score. By the way, they beat Everton. That was only 1-0, and Everton were probably the better team, and we're lucky not to come away with something. I worry for Southampton. I do. I worry for Southampton and Russell Martin. I think him and Lopetegui, they're in a race to see which manager goes first.
It's actually interesting with the lack of goals for Southampton, because Liverpool were conceding goals, 5 consecutive away from home, in which they failed to keep a clean sheet. Now they've kept a clean sheet in 3 of the last 4 away, so they have tightened up at the back, Liverpool. Talking of which, Trent Alexander-Arnold and Virgil van Dijk are both going to be missing for this one. Mo Salah scored in 4 of the 5 away games for Liverpool in the Premier League so far this season. And in all 4 games, it was the final goal of the game. And talking of 4, that's the last meeting at St Mary's. I can't remember this game. 4-4, yeah. It finished last time they played here. It finished 4-4 between Southampton and Liverpool. A belter of a game. Neil, obviously you got very close connections to Liverpool. You can't see an upset in this one either.
No, not at all. No, I think the time of the game helps Liverpool as well, with it being on a Sunday rather than Saturday. It allows the players back from international duty that extra bit of recovery. Obviously, players all around the world. Whether the South Americans will play will be the interesting one. Does Diaz play? Does Nunez went off at half-time for Uruguay against Brazil? McAllister played the full 90 for Argentina midweek as well. So I think 1 or 2 might play, but not all 3. Liverpool are in a good place, really good place at the moment. Beat Villa, beat Leverkusen, hammered Leverkusen in the Champions League game before. Everything's there at the moment for Liverpool. Southampton are awful. I agree with Robbo, where they might nick a goal, but you don't see them scoring 2 or 3. I thought they were unlucky with the goal they had disallowed at Wolves. I still don't understand why that was disallowed, to be honest. But I mean, how many times do we say that this season? Yeah, Southampton will be adrift, 20 points adrift by the end of the season. Nowhere near good enough.
Difficult to argue against him, though, with what Southampton are doing.
What I would say is, in any game of football, if you get that little bit of luck, that big decision, you might nick a point. And that's all we can see, how Liverpool don't win this game. So Liverpool to win comfortably. Szoboszlai to score. Get Szoboszlai down for a goal. He hasn't scored. He scored a last-minute equaliser for Hungary. His confidence will be up. He might come off the bench and score, but I fancy him to score. Last goal, Premier League, January. He is due one. Liverpool to win 2-0.
I tell you what, there's some value. I'll need to find this by the end of the show. Maybe part 2. A Bernardo Silva and a Szoboszlai double this weekend.
We'll have a look.
About 150 to 1.
We'll have a look and see what it is. It's interesting going for 2-0 for Liverpool, by the way, because all of the last 5 meetings between Southampton and Liverpool have been over 2.5 goals. And if Liverpool do win this one, I mean, you look at the league table right now, you said Liverpool are in a good place. That was both, on the pitch and in the league as well. I mean, already after just 11 games, 5 points clear of Man City and way clear of Chelsea. And if Man City do drop points at home to Spurs, which they could, because Spurs have got a good record at Man City, certainly scoring goals, Liverpool could be some in the region of 7 or 8 points clear at the top of the table after 12 games, which would be absolute. Well, I don't think I've seen that in a very long time. Paul, so a comfortable away victory for Mel's on this one. What about you? Where are you going?
It's how many? I think, you're not going to get any value in Liverpool this weekend. All they're going to do is bust people's accas if they don't win. It's Liverpool, who scores them and how many. I'm a little bit safe with my bets, not Szoboszlai. There's pick another Liverpool goal scorer. And it's how many. I'm going to go 4-0 Liverpool. Saw Southampton first hand last week. They can ship goals without scoring. 4.
Liverpool, last time they scored 4 away from home in the Premier League, was a 4-1 win at Brentford, pretty much at the start of 2024. So you've gone for 4-0 for Liverpool, and Neil, you've gone for 2-0 for Liverpool to beat Southampton. Whatever your bets are, please do gamble responsibly. In part 2, we'll be looking at the rest of the Premier League games, giving our score predictions. We'll be reflecting back on the guys' score predictions for Matchday 11 and who won that one. So it was kind of one-sided this week. And we'll also be looking at the guys' trebles as well. We'll catch you in part 2.